Welcome to your energy top up for the week. This is your 30-minute energy boost to build your mental and emotional fitness and really rev you up, because right now that's what we need. I am psychologist Dr. Audrey Tang, and I'm joined by award-winning parent and family coach Sharon Lawton.
Hi, so I'm Sharon. I'm from Natural Flair Coaching, and I'm so delighted to be with you today.
We would love you to join us in some practical exercises to build that inner resilience and inner strength, because that is the most important thing we need right now. And this is a special broadcast because we are going live.
I know, how exciting. So we know that you're feeling a little bit anxious right now. We know that actually you've made lots of changes in your lives, and that might feel a little bit strange. It might cause you to feel a little bit worrying, but that's why we're here to help you each week. So as Audrey said, we're coming to you live, and we want to hear your comments. So type in some answers and questions and things like that, and we will try and get back to you. But if you lose the link, or if you can't join us for the whole of our 30 minutes, well, this show will eventually go up on a YouTube channel as well. And if you type in any question in the comments, we promise we will answer every single one of them. Isn't that right, Audrey?
Absolutely, absolutely. As long as they're not naughty questions. So we want you to join in this warm up first of all. And one of the biggest things that we need to think about sometimes when we're managing anxiety is we need to reframe our thinking, because it's our brain that can actually push us off into the wrong direction. And this can help us manage our frustrations and manage our worries. So this is your first task. I am going to give you 10 seconds to make one change about yourself right now. So that's 10 seconds. Make one change about your appearance right now. Off you go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, now, for the majority of people, it is likely that you would have removed something, taken something off. And that's the biggest problem, because for a lot of us, change seems to suggest unconsciously a loss. That's why we worry about it so much. But when it comes to change, the reality is it's simply something different. We change our hair, we change our phones, we change our bed sheets, and hopefully we also change our underwear. And often the change is at least different, and in the case of underwear, probably for the better. So if we can actually start reframing some of that thinking, some of that change means something horrible or that we're losing, into, okay, well, there's a change going on right now, but you know what? It might work out for the better. It might be that actually remote working is suiting you, or maybe you're exploring different options that you never knew you had. It's worth seeing change as something that could potentially be positive. So that's one way of managing anxiety, and it's something that we can try just by reframing. And Sharon has got a great little exercise, and this works for young people as well as the slightly older ones, and this will help you get a little bit of a handle on the ideas and thoughts and feelings that could get you really anxious, but you can't always control. So that's over to you, Sharon.
Well, I'm going to share something that is called personal power, and that's all about the type of choices that we make. So if we are a child, for example, those children that are watching, what might be some of the ways that you might use your personal power positively? Well, it might be being kind, it might be helping someone, it might be listening, it might be following the rules when you're at school. If you're using your personal power negatively, it might be around breaking the rules, not listening, being unkind to someone, excluding someone when we're playing. So our personal power also starts to come into play when it's around change, because there are some things that actually we can control and some things that we can't control. And so again, that comes back to our personal power. If we use our personal power to try and focus on all of the things that we can't control, and that might be things like how someone's behaving towards us, whether or not we are able to play with someone at the moment, it might be what the way that other people behave to us, it could be a whole range of things. But we could use our personal power positively by focusing on what we can control. And the things that we can control are where we get our information from, when we do our homework, how we choose to behave, whether or not we choose to listen. So what might be a really nice idea is to draw a little circle and just put inside that circle all of the things, all of the ways that you can use your personal power positively. So have a go at that this week and see. Over to you, Audrey.
And this doesn't only need to be a child's exercise. You can do this as a whole family. The circle of influence is something that we can think about when it comes to maybe thinking about career changes, maybe thinking about relationships, all of those sorts of things. There are some things that we are anxious about, but we can't influence. For example, we don't actually know when lockdown's going to be lifted. So that might be something of how long this uncertainty is going to continue. And that you could write in the outer circle is uncertainty. We can't control that, even though we're worrying about it. But there are some things you can do something about. So, for example, that might be training yourself for new skills. It might be forming new network connections. So maybe networking might be something that you can put in your circle of influence. Now, often, and this is something we get better at as we become older, we tend to use all of the things in the outer circle to start avoiding the things that we really can do something about in the inner circle. So that's something to be wary about as well. Try that exercise exactly as Sharon says. Maybe do it as a family. Think about all the things where you have very little influence, but then really focus on the things that you can make a difference for. Now, whilst it's great to think about personal power, sometimes we can be so anxious and so worried that we actually don't even get to that stage. So what do we do beforehand? Well, again, Sharon's got a fabulous tip that young people can use, and then I will be showing you how we can do this for adults and for teens as well. Back to you, Sharon.
Thanks, Audrey. Now, this is one of my favourites. Now, when I work with young people on a face-to-face basis, we look at worries and what we can actually do with our worries. Because when we go back to that previous exercise, when we start thinking about our worries, actually there isn't often much that we can do right in that present moment. But what we can do is to use something like a worry monster. So I've got my worry monster here. Now, the worry monster is a great thing to be able to use, particularly right now. If you've got any big worries or small worries or things that actually you're a little bit concerned about, what I'd like to invite you to do is to take a piece of paper and to draw your worry. You could draw it as if it were a monster. You can draw it just what you think your worry looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like. Or you can write down your worry just in words. And then what you do is you open up the lovely worry monster's mouth and you pop your worry inside your worry monster and zip up his mouth. And the worry monster will look after it until you find a safe adult to talk to about that worry. And that's really important because the worry monster will look after it for you. But it's important to share your worries with a grown-up that you really trust and someone that cares for you. And they can help you to sort that out. So that's really a really great idea. If you haven't got a worry monster, it doesn't matter. Because what you can do is you can create something with a shoebox, which I've got here. I think Audrey's going to talk about something similar, but this is a little shoebox here. So that's like a worry box. And my son used to have one of those, and he would pop it on his door and he would put his worries in there. And then when he had a couple in there, we would just have an opportunity to share, take out his worries and read through them and talk through them and see what we could do as a result. We do a little bit of problem solving. But again, if you haven't got a shoebox, you might be able to use like a little bag or a pillowcase or anything really. So have a think, a jam jar. There are so many ways in which you can look at your worries and pop them in and make a worry jar or a worry monster or a worry box. So lots and lots of ideas, but these are really easy to get. And also, as I said, you could draw your worries. You might want to sort of draw them. And I've got some great little activities over on my website that you might want to have a look as a result of that. What are your ideas then, Audrey?
Well, what I love about your worry box is that it's a good way of getting that information, getting that concern out without it taking up a lot of energy in your mind. The whole problem with worries is that they really can clog up a lot of our brain. And unless we get them out, all we do is we spend more and more time thinking about them, and that leaves us less energy and less emotional fitness to do anything else. And this is, of course, very similar to the suggestion boxes that you might have in the workplace. Putting those concerns in there, even anonymously, at least helps you voice them. Now, without being in the workplace, you can also, and I find this really useful, you can journal too. You might decide to take a photograph of what's worrying you, or some way of expressing that concern, or maybe draw a piece of art or write a piece of poetry. Maybe you'll create something out of craft. Songwriting, choreography and sport are also other ways of expressing those worries and anxieties in order to come back to them in a calm frame of mind. But as Sharon said, one of the most important things is you must come back to that concern at some point. We are not saying put it away and lock it away and don't do anything about it, because that can cause bigger problems later on. By putting it away for the time being, what it does is it stops you imprinting and focusing and making it bigger and bigger in your head, because overthinking does that. But by having it in a journal, having it written down somewhere, having it in the worry monster, it allows you to come back to it and deal with it at a time when you're less emotional and more able to find a solution. But the most important thing is you must deal with it. There are tons of exercises on our YouTube page, which is the Wellness League. And exactly as Sharon says, she's got a lot of these resources on her website, which is www.natural-flair.com. And we will put those links at the end of this broadcast. But if you go onto our website and try any of our activities out, we would love to see what you've been up to, just like this.
Hello Audrey, and welcome to our little homeschool in Leighton Buzzard. Today I've got an assistant with me. This is Rosie. Can you say hello, Rosie?
Hello Audrey.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to be showing you how we use phonics in everyday circumstances. So Rosie's got a little llama here that says today is. So she's going to be telling us what today's date is using phonics. So Rosie, today it is. Can you do this in phonics for me?
Friday!
Well done, Friday. So it's Friday the third of. So the A makes an A sound.
April!
April. Well
I can do it,
done.
I can do it.
Are you ready? Let's lift you up and you can put that on the calendar. Look. Good job. Good phonics. So next, Rosie's going to be showing you how she can use phonics to make the name of one of her best friends. So over here, we've got all the sounds we need in order to make one of your best friends Amber's name. So when we say the name Amber, what's the first sound you hear? Can you find it? Good job.
For ants!
Good girl. Okay, so we're gonna say it again. Amber. What's the clever girl? The second sound we hear is mm.
For moon.
Good job. So can you put it next to it? Clever girl. So now sound them, touch them, and make the sounds. Am. So in the name Amber, what's the next sound we hear?
Bat.
B.
For bat.
Good girl. Well done.
It's a cute little batty.
So touch the sounds.
Amber.
Amb. Okay, so what's the last sound we need?
For ladder.
Clever girl. Okay, so let's touch the sounds.
Amber.
Blend them together. Amber. Good job. High five. Well done.
Thank you so much to Kirsty Manning. Kirsty is our literacy tutor and she has a fantastic playlist of phonics on the Wellness League YouTube channel. So do check out her playlist, and it's a great way to do a little bonding and, of course, practice all of those important phonics. Now, before we get towards the end, we wanted to relax you, and Sharon is now going to take us through a breathing exercise. Now, the lovely thing about this is, again, Sharon has some great resources, and she will be showing you one of them as she demonstrates this breathing exercise. But for adults, one thing that I find is if someone tells me to calm down, that tends to wind me up even more. So what I suggest you do is, if you do want to practice the breathing exercise, but you're not quite in the frame of mind to do it, get yourself out of your head by either focusing on the second hand of a clock as it ticks. So count the second hands as you breathe, and you'll be able to do that in the same counting as Sharon will take you through. Or as you count, focus on the paving stones, on the ground, or counting something, but that way you're out of that head and out of that emotional nest of things going on. So over to you, Sharon, for the breathing exercise.
Fantastic. Now, it's like any kind of fitness, building your resilience, building your inner superpower, your personal power. It takes a little bit of time, effort, and practice. But that time, effort, and practice will create nice, strong links in your brain so that you can be the boss of your brain rather than your brain being the boss of you. And that results in you feeling calmer, happier, and more in control of your feelings. So one of the ways that we can do that, and remember, we need to practice it even when we don't need it, is by doing some breathing exercises. So I've got a breathing ball, which is this thing is here, and I want you to follow the breathing ball as we breathe in and out together. Now, if you pop your hand on your tummy while you're doing this, you should be able to feel your tummy expand and contract, because we want to breathe from our tummies and not from our chests. When we breathe from our chest, that often increases the adrenaline rush around our body. If we breathe from our bellies, actually, that's a much better way of breathing. So in through our nose and out through our mouths. Are you ready? So we're going to breathe in for 3, we're going to pause, and then we're going to breathe out through our nose for 3. Okay. So are you ready? So let's do this together. Ready? Breathing in, 2, 3, and out. 2, 3. Let's breathe in, 2, 3, and out. 2, 3. Breathe in, 2, 3, and out. 2, 3. Now you need to do that really for as long as you need to feel calm again, to feel that you're a little bit more grounded again. And again, practicing when you don't need it means you're able to access it when you do need it. Because if we only just use these exercises when we're feeling a little bit anxious, actually that's not the way to be the boss of our brains. One of the things that I always say, Audrey, before I hand back to you is, if we're going to run a marathon, we don't just pop our trainers on and go out there and run for 26 miles. We'll pop our trainers on and we'll have to train every single day. So the first day we might only be able to run for 3 minutes and then do a bit of walking. And then the next day we just build it up a little bit more, a little bit more, and a little bit more, until actually we're running 26 miles without even thinking about it. And that's what all of these exercises are like. It's little and often. Drip, 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 to build our inner resilience. It's not just going to happen overnight. What do you think?
Spot on. It's about building up that fitness before the point of crisis, because when you're already stressed, it's really hard to come back and do any of these things. Now, before we finish, we are really, really lucky to be able to send you off with a thought for the week from the Reverend Mandy Marriott of Duston Parish, and she will be giving us that lift of faith and hope that I think is going to come in really, really useful at the moment. So thank you all for joining us. Hope to see you again next week. Bye for now, and over to Mandy.
Hello, I'm Mandy, and I'd like to share a few thoughts with you as we conclude this session today. We are human beings. Note the word beings. But for much of the time, we function as human doings. Most of our lives, we're on the go, doing this, doing that, going here and there, filling our time with activity, be it at work or in our family or our social life or just our day-to-day routines. But suddenly, being isolated at home means that our doing is restricted. And perhaps in order to manage this new situation we find ourselves in, we need to allow the being part of ourselves to redress the balance. I have noted in myself, and indeed others have commented also, that this whole situation causes us to feel exhausted, drained, anxious. And perhaps the first thing to do is to acknowledge that, just to acknowledge how we feel and to own it. I wonder, have you tried journaling? It can be quite healing to write down your thoughts and express how you feel on paper and just to get it out there. Or perhaps you might prefer to draw a picture or to paint, to express again how you feel in art form. For some people, this activity becomes like a prayer and a way of communicating with God or something beyond ourselves. I notice that when negative thoughts start to take hold, then that feeds the fear within us, and we can often descend into a downward spiral of even more negative thoughts and emotions. But I do believe that we have a choice. We can go on that downward spiral, or we can choose to stop and reverse that spiral and move upwards instead of downwards. Now, there is a passage in the Bible that says this: continue to think about the things that are good and worthy of praise. Think about the things that are true and honourable and right and pure and beautiful and respected. In other words, think about positive things, beautiful things, things that make us smile. Now, another way to stop that downward spiral might be to sing. Did you notice during lockdown in Italy and Spain, people were singing to each other across their balconies? You see, singing lowers cortisol in the body and relieves stress and tension. Studies have shown that when people sing, endorphins and oxytocin are released by the brain, which in turn lowers stress and anxiety levels. Singing also can boost confidence. The release of endorphins gives singers a positive feeling and an energy boost. As a Christian, I might choose to play some uplifting Christian worship songs. But you can perhaps choose the music that stirs your soul. And I encourage you to do that and to join in the sound and the rhythm and the flow of the music and let yourself go. So I do want to encourage you, because you can take steps to overcome the fear in these times. Lift the focus from the worry that you feel, and perhaps instead direct your thoughts to give encouragement to someone else. And I want to leave you with a pearl of wisdom written by King Solomon centuries and centuries ago. He said, "Worry weighs a person down, but an encouraging word cheers a person up." So be blessed with peace in these times, in your heart and mind, and also be a blessing to others.